Have you been wondering how you can increase your income with property ideas you can use right now? Well, let's go.
Good day, ICanWin here, and I just want to say to you, this video is literally going to give you even more value as it pertains to understanding strategies you can use right now to make money from property. But I just want to share, if you haven't watched the video before this video, hit the playlist right here and go and watch all the videos before this video. This is one video out of a 4-part series of videos in order to help you understand 7 different strategies you can use to make money from property right now. And if you're one of those people who've already seen the videos before this one, then congratulations, let's get some more value right now.
I don't want to waste any time. I'm going to give you an acronym so you can literally remember all 7 as well. So let's jump straight onto the board so we can get straight into this. And for those of you who are new to the channel, I help people create consistent, colossal cash flow using resources and revenues hidden in plain sight. In fact, whilst other coaches are out there saying that they help people become financially free within 5 to 10 years, me and my team help people become financially free within 3 to 12 months. So if that's interesting to you, hit that subscribe button, press the like button, and be a part of this community so every single time we drop another video, you can find out more. So like I said, let's go. So what I'm gonna do to start is give you guys an acronym in order to help you never ever forget any of the 7 approaches I'm gonna be sharing with you in this video. And the acronym is even easier to remember because it's literally my name. All you have to do is write down Samuel I. So let's do that. SAMUEL and I. Now, each of these letters from my name plus my initial is going to give you one of the 7 strategies that I'm going to be talking about in this video. So with that being said, let's go into the 5th of these strategies to give you guys an equipping in ways you can generate income right now from your property investment. Now for number 5, we're going to be talking about a strategy that I can use a very quick acronym in order to define, and that is the exchange with delayed completion. We can call that an EDC, okay? Exchange with delayed completion. An interesting thing about the exchange with delayed completion is there are so many benefits with this strategy. So let me define the strategy and then share with you a few of the benefits so you can know how this can work for you. So now the EDC, the exchange with delayed completion, is a strategy where on the onset, it looks like we're doing the normal traditional purchase of a property, and to a large degree we are. However, for those of you who have bought multiple properties, you will know that just before you complete, at some stage, it may be a few weeks before, in some cases it might be the same day, we exchange. Now, what is an exchange process? The exchange process is the exchange of initial funds and the exchange of the legal documents before completion. All right. Now, for most people who have bought property, they only understand that you exchange right before you complete. And the reason why is because the legal representatives never explain to you anything other than that. However, what you're actually able to do in any property sale transaction, you are actually able to extend the period in which you exchange and the period in which you complete. And this is what is known as an exchange with delayed completion. Now, there are many reasons why you might want to do this, and there's things to bear in mind as you do this. The first thing is an exchange will usually have as a primary general component, doesn't mean it has to, but it will usually have a monetary transition taking place. So you will be parting with money. Now, under certain circumstances, that money might be a very small amount of money, all right? And if you guys are interested in finding out more about how that can happen, then just leave a comment below and maybe we'll do a video on that. But predominantly, there will be an exchange, okay? And typically, those exchanges of finances will be around a 10%, 5% fee. And that's 10% or 5% of the purchase price of the property. Now, after you exchange on the property, traditionally, people tend to complete in the next few days, in the next few weeks. But it is possible to align your legal representatives to set up an exchange with delayed completion where you are literally exchanging on a date, but completing months later, all right? So just to give you an example of exactly how this can work, one of our coaching clients was able to purchase a property, over £200,000 of property, but because of the structure in which she had set up the purchase, she was able to come in and refurbish the whole property after she had exchanged on the property, but before she had completed on the property. Now, some of you might be thinking, Samuel, but that sounds amazing, but isn't there a risk? Isn't there a risk that the seller can just up and leave with all the investment you've made in the refurbishment of the property? And the reality is, if you've exchanged first, legally, it's very, very difficult for them to do that because you've parted with funds. And if you've got everything in place, there are a few things you need to have in place, but if you've got everything in place in the interim, then absolutely that seller's not going to be able to do that without a liability, all right? Now, without liable cause after. Now, the reason this is so interesting is because this particular coaching client I'm talking about, these are some of the benefits that she found, which obviously are benefits that you could have as well. The first one is she didn't have to pay any of the utilities throughout that period that she was refurbishing the property. Now, if she had bought the property, exchanged with a normal completion, she would have had to pay for all of the gas, all of the electric bills through that period. Now, that's not a lot of money, but that is some money, and it may be of interest to you. So that's the first one. The second benefit, which is extremely beneficial, is the simple fact that when the property was finished being refurbished, before the property had been completed, it was simple to be able to get an estate agent or a surveyor in to revalue the property. Now, why is this interesting? Well, if I've agreed to buy a property at £250,000, I've set up an exchange with delayed completion, and in the 4 to 8 months, 6 month delay, I've refurbished the property and got a surveyor to come in and revalue the property. And let's say that surveyor comes in and says, Samuel, the new value of this property is £320,000. Well, I know that if I've just invested £15,000 in a refurbishment, I've literally turned that £15,000 into a new £70,000, because that's the difference between the $250 I was buying for originally and the $320 that it's now being re-evaluated at. Now, again, if you guys understand the depth of this value, this allows you to literally kind of try before you buy, in a sense and in a way. So this is, again, a very, very powerful benefit for us to be able to start to generate real wealth from property right now. The last benefit I'm going to share with you about the EDC is that it allows you to deploy less of your funds before you take the full plunge on the acquisition. So for some of you, that might help you be able to finalize finance issues. If you're going through a tedious mortgage or a tedious process to raise a mortgage, and you've got lenders, especially in this current climate, saying, oh, based on the interest rates, we're shifting your interest rate, or based on the interest rate, we're not sure if we're going to give you this mortgage. Well, that's a great thing to do. Set up an exchange with delayed completion, buy yourself some more time, drop the initial seed capital, 5%, 10%, or even less, based on some of the strategies we teach our clients. But then straight after you do that, you've created a gap where you can literally arrange your finances, get them in place, and complete on that purchase. Now, here's one warning you need to be aware of. With an exchange with delayed completion, if you choose for any reason to walk away from that transaction, you will lose money, okay? And I'm sharing this here on this video so you understand, okay? If you choose at any stage, let's say our client decided to do the exchange with delayed completion, go on and actually invest in refurbishing the property, and then last minute said, oh, I'm dropping out, I don't want the property anymore, she would have been liable for all of the finance that she had invested. And obviously that makes sense, but I just want to share that so it's clear and you are aware. So with that being said, let's go into number 6 so you guys can get even more value as you understand, okay, all of these 7 strategies can be used for you to start generating £1,000 plus every single month from property. Now, the 6th strategy I'm going to be sharing with you is known as the lease option agreement, the lease option agreement. And it always kind of bemuses me when I hear these property gurus or people out there in the property space acting like they created the lease option, okay? And the reason why it always bemuses me is because they didn't create the lease option. The lease option is one of the oldest agreement structures that has ever been around. I first learned about the lease option agreement when I started to study agriculture out of interest a number of years ago. And one of the things you find with agriculture is that's where the actual roots of a lease option agreement was set up. So let me define the lease option agreement so you guys understand exactly how it works. A lease option agreement is when you make an agreement with a seller to lease their property. Now, the term lease traditionally goes back to a long-term rental or a long-term let. So you are leasing that property from the specific seller for a period of time with you having the option to buy that property, okay? So that's a lease option agreement. It's an agreement which allows you to lease a property from a seller with the option for you, solely you, your company, you as an individual, whoever set up that agreement, to buy the property. Now, the great thing about a lease option agreement is you originally set the purchase price. So if I was to go into a lease option agreement today with a specific seller, we might set a purchase price today of £500,000, and we might say that I have 5 years to execute on that option. So what that literally means is today I get a property at a price of £500,000, and anytime from today until the next 5 years, I have the ability to take advantage of the option of the lease agreement. Now, the reason this is so powerful, I'm sure you can start to see it already, is because from today until the 5-year time, anything can happen. And one of the main things that tends to happen in the property market is the price of properties generally tend to go up. So if, for example, I decide to agree a £500,000 lease option agreement today, then from now until the 5 years, I'm able to literally watch that property increase in value. Let's say it goes to 600,000, 700,000, and then execute any time from now until that 5th year in order to take advantage of that potential gain. Now, there are a few things you need to be aware of before I go into some of the details, but the first thing to be aware of is how a lease option works. Now, because it's a lease option, you are leasing the property with the option to buy. Now, obviously, if you're leasing, that means there's going to be a regular, routine, monthly payment to be made, okay? So every single month, you will have to pay effectively a rent on the property until the date which you exercise. Now, here's a little bonus for you guys, for those of you who are actually watching up until this point of the video. You are able to create a lease option agreement where every monthly payment you make can come off of the end purchase price, okay? So you're able to do it either way. So don't say, oh, I have to do it this way. No, you can do it either way. It's all about how you set up the agreement. So you can either literally every single month make a payment, and all of those incremental payments come off the end price, in our example, the £500,000, or you can make incremental payments every single month, and then at the end, those payments do not come off the end price. But either are possible, and both fall under a lease option agreement. So you're going to be making monthly payments, which obviously you're going to agree with the seller. You're going to have the option, the opportunity to purchase that property at a predetermined price that you and the seller have agreed at the start of that agreement. And that agreement is going to have a period of time to run for. Now, there's one piece of information that's very important, and that is in the UK, you have up to 7 years to exercise an option agreement that is drafted for up to 7 years without registering that agreement with the land registry, okay? So if you do decide to have a 13-year option agreement, that is possible, but there are extra stipulations such as you will have to register that agreement with the land registry. But if you're below 7 years, you're absolutely fine to not register that agreement at the time of this recording. So what are some of the benefits of a lease option agreement? Well, one of the benefits obviously is you haven't had to deploy all of the deposit funds in order to buy that property. So if we're talking about a £500,000 property, an original deposit would be £125,000 if we're looking at roughly putting down a 25% deposit. Now, rather than having to deploy £125,000 into a property project, you now have the ability through a lease option agreement to pay a lease fee every single month and take advantage of the use and utilization of that property, even though you haven't deployed that £125,000. And at a later date, yes, when you do purchase the property for the full $500,000 that you pre-agreed, you will have to put the deposit funds down at that time. But depending on how you work out your deal, you may have ended up literally paying that deposit down over the months through your incremental payments. So that's one of the first benefits. You don't have to deploy the full weight of the deposit funds. A second benefit is you get full utilization in most lease options from the first day you sign your agreement. So the moment you sign your agreement and that lease option is supposed to take effect on next Monday, from next Monday, you get the keys. From next Monday, you can utilize the house and generate revenue or use the house for whatever purposes you want. And that is an amazing benefit because that allows you to potentially create cash flow from that property, which pays for you to have that property in form of the lease and then go on to actually acquire the property. Now, the last benefit I'm gonna leave you with on the lease option agreement is that the funds it takes you to start is literally less than £10,000 in most cases. And the reason why is because the main bulk of funds at the start of most lease option agreements is gonna be your legal fees. It might even be the legal fees of the seller, but it's around the idea of fees more so than around deposits, more so than around broker charges, more so than around other fees that tend to come in your traditional conveyancing through the purchase of property. So that's the lease option strategy, and it's one of my favorite strategies. And I think it's one of my favorite strategies because one of my property coaches, it's his favorite strategy. So he's always talking about it, he's always sharing about it, and he's always giving deep insights on it. And it kind of rubbed off on me, if I'm gonna be honest with you, and made me to become very fond of the lease option strategy and the benefits it creates for you to build your portfolio and to build your wealth.
If you got value out of this video, be sure to write the comments down below and let us know so we can create more content like this for you. But listen guys, I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, go and watch the other videos in this series. This is a 4-part series, and get all of the value from all 7 of the strategies that you can use to generate revenue in property right now. And I'll see you on the next one, as you remember that small keys open up big doors.